Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to another blammy Skwigly Living podcast. I'm Ben singing with Steve and the other one. And hello, Steve.
Hello, Ben. Has the heat melted your brain?
A little bit.
Yeah, mine too. It's just I just turned the fan off like 10 seconds ago before we began recording, and I can feel the sweat dripping down my head. It's awful.
We'll see how we do. We'll see how we last.
Yeah.
With this one. It may be that halfway through the podcast, you hear the fans go back on. This is us suffering for our art for 10 plus years now. Absolutely.
I mean, I remember fondly the open windows in Bedminster when the squawk of the local residents and occasional seagulls during the summer recordings. But yeah, now we're just two sweaty old men.
Pretty much.
Having a whinge.
Having a grouse and a grumble. Yeah, because I think when we first started, we sort of played up that, sort of, we're so old, we're in our late 20s. Now we are just literally middle-aged old men just whining about the state of things. It's great. It's a fulfilling prophecy.
Now our knees really hurt, yeah.
How are you doing? How have you been? What have you been up to?
Good, yeah, it's been a busy few weeks. Lots of Annecy adventures, and then the Children's Media Conference, which finished yesterday at time of recording. Yesterday, so yeah, lots of boiling hot animated adventures. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to sort of spilling the beans on those as well. How's your however since the last podcast has been?
My however has been pretty good. In a bit of a transition period at the moment, finishing up a pretty intense project, actually just wrapped, actually delivered all the final deliverables this week, and it's been received very warmly, which is nice because I was a little nervous about it. Can't really go into the specifics, cryptic little scoundrel though I am, but it's a quite big IP that you want to do a good job with when it's like a legacy thing, and people seem happy with it. The folks who it's aimed at seem to be eating it up, so that's good. But as one thing wraps up, two other projects are sort of on the horizon, and it's good people as well. It's a good bunch I'm working with, so. That always makes such a difference, when you actually like the people you're among and trust each other, and you have a shorthand.
Nice. Oh, that's good to hear.
So yeah, but very intense, but very, very fulfilling work. I suppose I can tease this, again, without going into specifics, but the transition period is that the new project coming up, two concurrent shows coming up. One is the same IP, and the other is a kind of similarly established one. So that's going to be a bit of a juggling act, kind of show running two things at the same time. But the very nice thing is, on one of them, Laura is going to be joining me. So we'll actually be working together for the first time in a while, working on a show together. Yeah, excited about that.
Amazing.
That'll be fun. I mean, it'll be an experiment. We've worked together before, of course. We've written the book together. We've worked on short form projects together, and we always help each other out with our, whatever we have on.
Nice. Well, as somebody who has the, the honour and the privilege of working day in, day out with my wife, I can honestly say, Ben, that you're in for an absolutely awful time, and you're not going to enjoy a second of it.
I always admired yours and Jen's system when it came to the running of a film festival. Mainly the way that you had this kind of mutual agreement to throw one another under the bus completely. Whenever a scorned filmmaker who hadn't been selected would come up to one of you, and you always have, I wanted your film in. It was Steve. I just can't talk sense into him. And vice versa. It's a beautiful thing.
It works. It works. I think, yeah, we're always honest, I think. I like to think I'm honest, because it's always a tricky one, that, because it could be your first film and you could be 19 years old at university, or you could be in your 70s. Jen and I often have to have exactly the same conversation with people whose films just don't get into the festival. And if Jen has said that Steve didn't like the film, it's probably genuine, I think. And if I say that Jen didn't like the film, I can imagine it being genuine as well. We should invent a third person that we can blame. Oh, it was, bloody Tony. Tony's on our selection team, and they just hated the film, and they're very loud and aggressive, so we just had to let it slide. You don't want to mess with Tony. They're an absolute beast,
Yeah, honestly, between us, Tony's a problem.
So, yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, there's not enough space on that screen at MAF, and there's not enough time, unfortunately. There's always the ones that get away. But yeah, I hope your marriage is strong, and you see your way through it together, Ben.
Well, we managed so far, coming up to 9 years without incident. Knock on wood. I guess that's the other thing that's lined up at the moment is Encounters will return, which was certainly the hope when it returned last year, that it wouldn't be a one-off, like, sort of last gasp thing. All signs point to it continuing. It's going to be a fun program, putting that together at the moment. Yeah, it's a good year. A lot of interesting stuff happening.
Nice.
Like with last year, and we talked about this on the last episode of the podcast, as anticipated, the AI stuff that's coming through. It's getting sneaky. Getting sneakier, It's funny, like, because there's a lot more hybrid stuff happening, right? Like, from people who are, like, actual production houses, and they're like, okay, we'll like half make a film, and then we'll have AI fill in the gaps. And, well, I'll talk about this a bit more later, because we've been discussing this. There's going to be a bit of, like, AI chat in this episode. But it's a funny sort of phenomenon I noticed with these types of films, like a narrative type of film, where they do some of it CG animation, and then they have some AI shots, and you could always tell the AI shots because the characters look like they've been bonked on the head with a mallet. They get that AI face, the kind where like they lose 50 IQ points and they just stare with this vacant grin on their face. Da!
I know exactly which one it is, yeah.
It's my 90th birthday, and no one said happy birthday, but I made this cake with peach icing. And no one, will you comment on this Facebook message? But I thought you were a refugee in the war-torn annex of such and such.
And your card says, happy 90th birthday. What's the... Oh, AI.
But yes, we'll get to that.
That was just a warm-up, folks. Strap in. There's been quite a focus of AI on all the kind of events that I've kind of been to recently and things like that. But I think it'd be nice to get out the way the good stuff as well before we start kind of challenging, the kind of the AI stuff. How's your? You went to Cardiff.
Yes, a little while ago now, but since the last podcast, the Cardiff Animation Festival happened. And it was a really, really good one. Really fun. We were in it for pretty much the whole thing. We came in the sort of like night before it kind of properly kicked off and did the Cardiff Animation Nights, which I hadn't been to one of those in a little while, and they're always such fun. It's the most receptive I think I've seen that kind of audience is in that environment, Yeah. And, the way they have it set up at Conks is like there's 8 billion screens, so like wherever you turn, you can see what's on. Yeah, it's just a really great way to start an event like that. We teased it in the last episode. The main sort of highlights, I think, for me. Julia Pott's talk was really nice. I hadn't seen actually a lot of her older work in a long time. It was nice to sort of revisit that. Because I remember back in the day when she kind of first emerged, and she was one of those, like, in the most affectionate way possible, one of those kind of animation weirdos. Like the types of films that she makes, and obviously, as like my established track record shows, I'm a fan of the weird stuff.
Yeah,
but that was channeled into having a very kind of respectable sort of mainstream career, or shows and commercial work and whatnot, and illustration and all that. And yes, it's really nice to kind of see someone's journey. The chaps who made The Midnight Walk, which was that video game, sort of VR stop-mo game. And I played it for a bit, and then I got a bit too busy with work, but I've been playing that again recently, and it is really good fun. It's more sort of like puzzle solving than I'm more of a combat guy, if I'm brutally honest. I do like to kind of punch Macares away. But it's great to look at. Really nice environment and atmosphere. And the presentation was really, really like satisfying, just sort of seeing all of the, everything you like about going behind the scenes of a stop motion production was sort of, that absolutely amped up because it's so integral to the visual identity of this game. It's something of a not a lost art completely, obviously, because it wouldn't exist otherwise, but there are, I think, less and less games that sort of draw upon stop-mo because it's sort of easy to just replicate it in CG, right? Mm. And CG definitely has a hand in this game. Like, it's they're scanning these physical models, but the animation is very informed by actual sort of stop-motion sequences, and it feels very tactile. It feels very kind of authentic to what it's trying to evoke. But it kind of reminded me of like some of the older games where there was a period where like games would actually do stop motion, like in their sprite animations. Mm. But not a very long period, but there was some fun stuff. One I hadn't thought of in years and years, but for people out there who might still have a PlayStation 1, I was playing Skull Monkeys. Did you ever play that?
No. Skull Monkeys.
It's like a spin-off of The Neverhood, but it's a platformer. And The Neverhood was more of a point and click, like Monkey Island type thing. But yeah, no, Skull Monkeys is a lot of fun.
I just Googled it and I recognize this straight away. It's not one that I actually played, but it is that cover is like instantly recognizable.
Yeah, if one is into their retro gaming, that's a nice one to a little perhaps obscure animation / video game relic to dig out.
Nice.
There's that whole thing we've talked about like how animation kind of appears in unexpected places in a way that we're more sort of in tune to because, obviously we're big on animation. I'm reading a book at the moment called Antkind by Charlie Kaufman, who, of course, made Anomalisa and wrote Being John Malkovich and Eternal Sunshine, Synecdoche, etc., etc. And it's a good book. It's sort of like 50% a really good book, and then 50% like, come on, mate. Like, but that's every chapter. It's like there'll be 2 pages of something really funny and interesting happening, and then like 2 pages of the narrator just pontificating in this way that is sometimes quite witty, but like it's a book that, had he not possibly been already an established person, probably would have been very heavily edited before it saw the shelves. So it's going to take me a while to get to the end, but the premise is quite fun. And I think that there might be some animation people out there who'd enjoy it. It's about a film scholar who discovers that a film that he's sort of trying to write a thesis on, he meets one of the child actors from it, who's now a very old man, who has devoted his entire life to making a 3-month-long stop-motion film, as in it will take 3 months to watch it. So the man dies shortly after they meet. This isn't a spoiler, it's very early in the book. So the guy is, collected all of the film reels that makes up this 3-month film and is taking it to be archived or studied and preserved and destroys it. And then devotes himself to recreating the entire film. And that's where I've gotten to in the book. I'm about a third of the way through it. I wonder if it was inspired by doing Anomalisa.
I was just about to ask: is this post? Was it written post Anomalisa? Is it something that?
Yeah, about 3-4 years ago, I think.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. That's You will have seen people sweating over Anomalisa and thought, yeah, this would make a great book about absolute like weirdos. This would be great.
It's interesting because it's maybe not something that comes through as much in the films, but it is very funny. Like a lot of it, it's actually like gotten some proper like belly laughs out of me. I don't usually laugh so much when I'm reading things, but yeah, very, very oddly balanced structure wise and huge. It's like 800 pages, so it's going to be a little bit of a slog, but we'll see how I get on. See how far into it I am by the next episode.
Well, you got that holiday coming up, Ben. There you go.
Yeah.
Read it on the plane.
It'll get me through another 5 chapters, maybe.
Yeah.
But another instance of like seeing, an animation-related person outside of their usual environment. Don't know why the algo recommended this to me. but for some reason you can watch entire episodes of Tipping Point on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And lo and behold, there's an episode of Tipping Point, and who should be one of the contestants?
Who, Ben?
But Zoran Yankovic. Beloved Zoran Yankovic of the Welsh animation scene. And I was like, damn, that's unexpected. Seeing someone from animation on Tipping Point. I mean, he was out after the second round, bit embarrassing. But, fair play to him,
I think the second round on Tipping Point that's very respectable. Anything past that is just showing off.
I did tell him he was actually at the animation night, so I did tell him that you and him were part of an exclusive club of, animation folk who made it through some of Tipping Point.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was rigged.
Was he absolutely rinsed by an old lady as well?
He may have been, actually.
Same old lady. She just shook all the prizes out of that machine. She was
do the rounds.
She was unstoppable.
Once I sort of saw that, and then it was just recommending me episodes of Tipping Point, and then it wasn't actually that long until yours came up, funnily enough.
Oh, God. Right. They'll exist forever on YouTube.
Yep. Comets turned on.
Yeah. All right. Well, if the comments are turned on, everyone find it. Just write justice for Steve. Let's get a campaign going. Let's. It was the machine. It wasn't the questions. It's the machine.
I found out a bit of animation trivia from another book I was reading earlier in the year, just before Antkind. Of all places, I was reading Melissa Aufter-Mauer's autobiography, or rather her memoir of the very sort of specific time in the 90s where she was in Hole. And you may probably know this story already, but this was news to me. Apparently, you know that old Simpsons where he's at Lollapalooza and he meets the Smashing Pumpkins?
This is going to be a question in the Skwigly quiz this year, so anyone who listens to the next 2 minutes of this trivia, which I know is coming this way, will get the question right.
Excellent. Well, there you go. It can be the Who's Listening round.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's the plan was that the band that Homer meets is Hole. And Hole's management shut it down completely because they didn't want Courtney Love to be made to look ridiculous. As if you could make Courtney Love look ridiculous.
Fantastic.
And needless to say, Melissa Aufter-Mauer was pissed because she would have loved to have been in The Simpsons. And then she ended up playing bass in the Smashing Pumpkins, but after that episode, she just missed her chance.
Oh, man.
See, life is cruel sometimes.
Well, that wasn't actually the bit of trivia that I was going to put in the quiz.
Shall we seed it anyway give people an edge?
Yeah, I thought you were going to go along the, the idea that No Doubt were guests in The Simpsons, but they were the only guests in The Simpsons that weren't officially guests in The Simpsons, because Eric Stefani, who's obviously Gwen Stefani's brother, but he was I think it was either a character designer or a background artist on The Simpsons. And in the background of that episode, he drew No Doubt before they became famous. So if you look in the background, there's the whole band's there, drawn by him. So they appear in The Simpsons, unofficially. So they're the only band that's guested on The Simpsons unofficially, which is pretty cool.
Well, there you go. So you remember that if you're headed to MAF.
Yeah.
It'll serve you well. You'll have a fighting chance at the prize table.
That's it, yeah.
But yeah, so CAF was great, going back to that, and that, the Midnight Walk, worth checking out. They had an exhibition, actually, of all the puppets that were used for the game, which was really, really fun. And met a lot of filmmakers. We actually do have a couple of recorded filmmaker Q&A sessions that will go up at some point.
Yeah, good things come to those who wait.
Laura did the sketch showdown this year. And did a very good job. She made it further than I think. She did a very serviceable Zoidberg.
Nice.
We have footage of that, actually. I might see if I can dig it out and maybe we can pop it up on the Insta or some such. But yeah, she went head-to-head with Will Anderson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a good bunch of people. Of course, as people who went to Cardiff 2 years ago will recall, no, last year actually will recall, I also did the sketch show then, and was robbed and still hold a grudge.
Which round were you knocked out in, Ben? Was it the second round? Is it the classic?
1B, which I guess is technically a second round.
Yeah, before the commercial break.
It was pretty shameful. Yeah. So just to sort of explain for people who haven't been to one of these, it's like you draw a cartoon character, but you don't know what cartoon character you're going to try and draw, and you have to do it from memory. Yeah. And you're told once you're up on stage. It was plagued with some technical difficulties. And I'm like, we haven't done a Skwigly quiz that hasn't been at least 45 minutes over time because of the technical difficulties. So, people will be patient. People will wait, patiently. And they all did. And in the end, they couldn't get the various screens and computers to communicate. So, someone had a quite brilliant idea. Oh, why don't we bring out 2 big sketch pads? And so, that worked well. Big giant ones, A1 type thing. And nice. Go analog. Nothing crashes. No one has to calibrate their phones.
Absolutely. And as promised on the last podcast, this year's math quiz is going to be all analog. I don't even think we're going to use pens. Yep. We're just going to yell for an hour and a half. We're going to go back to the cave days. Just going to shriek at each other.
Some other fun stuff. There's Malta Dolt, who based over in, I think, is it Chicago? Yeah, Chicago animation night curated by Sarah Schmidt, and she brought over a really, really fun program that was a kind of very oddball collection of animation. Again, very much all up my street. Yeah, really good fun. Yeah, loads of great workshops. I wasn't able to do everything, of course, inevitably, but I was hearing loads of praise and enthusiasm. We have a bit of coverage up from Jordan King and Ryan Gore, who got to see some different things. So yeah, have a look at skwigly.com. Check them out. We did another book presentation talking about our book and Joanna Quinn's book and Greg McLeod's new book, or book series rather, Night Sir Louis. And that's really nice. We'll probably try and put that out as an intimate animation podcast at some point. We've been collecting our live appearances, and when we get like a series worth, we'll put them out as like the special live edition of Intimate Animation.
Nice.
But of course, I think probably the highlight for everyone with ears would have been the animated karaoke. And yes, it was, in true tradition, karaoke at an animation festival / conference is always the best kind, I think. And no, we all did a very good job. I'm proud of us.
What was your song?
I, of course, was a little show-off, smarty pants. My opening song was Arabian Nights in French, because I just prefer that song in French. I just like the way it sounds. Pronunciation, of course, dreadful. So that was my kind of like, kicking things off sort of thing, and then busted out a bit of Boom Shake the Room. That's hard though. It gets harder as I get older. There's a lot of breath control in that you wouldn't think.
Especially when you do it in Swedish or whatever other language you did it in. Yeah.
Bit of No Doubt, full circle, bringing things back a bit.
Perfect. Yeah, were you just a girl? What was what No Doubt song was it?
Hella Good.
Hella Good. Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Which I believe I trotted out at Aaron's stag do.
You did.
A lot of these were tried and tested. It was because Arabian Nights I gave a whirl at Anima Brussels a little while ago.
Nice.
Boom Shake the Room has become a bit of a staple of my set. A bit of BB King for the young folk to give a bit of an education.
Anaconda?
No, I didn't have the confidence for Anaconda that night, unfortunately.
Everybody missed out.
It's been a bit of a while. I haven't really. I need to relearn that one. So yeah, great job again to the Cardiff Animation gang, and I believe they're actually coming back next year. They're not doing their biennial thing anymore. They're going to try and do it yearly, which is good stuff. Good for the local scene. Yeah,
that's really exciting news, isn't it? Because it's flipping hard work putting on these festivals and events, and when they went to every 2 years, I was like, that's good for them. That's good for their wherewithal and mental health and everything else. But but I want a festival every year. But to hear that they've kind of got it all sorted so they can do it every year is fantastic, But obviously doing it every 2 years is obviously precedent for that with Annecy and Zagreb, and it used to be quite a thing to do. So following in the right footsteps there. But yeah, great to have it every year.
Speaking of festivals, on the grow, you were at Annecy this year.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, knocked back a little bit this year, Annecy. It was, I think, it was about a week later than it usually is, but it was fantastic. It was brilliant to kind of catch up with people and all slowly boil to death in 40-degree weather. It was absolutely, in terms of, if you're listening to this and you were upset because you couldn't afford to get to Annecy, or because you were too much work on, or because you forgot that it was happening and really wanted to go this year, and you were really upset because that, you didn't end up going to Annecy, then you are so lucky that you missed out on the sun literally trying to kill everybody. It was absolutely horrific. It was absolutely relentless, and it was like, was it Paul Hill's film Sun? When the sun's, it was that. It was. If everyone look at that film, it's great, but it was that basically. And all my meetings were one side of town, then the other side of town, then one side of town, then the other side of town, and absolutely sweltering. But it's this weird thing where you're going to meet people, and because the sun has turned your brain to pudding, you forget things and you forget their names, and you forget, because like you're talking to one another, and all you can think is, Jesus, it's hot. Jesus, it's hot. Jesus, it's hot. Jesus, it's hot. And she's kind of like smiling and probably looking a little bit demonic. But in the air conditioned cinemas, once you get in there, the offering was good. I feel maybe if I'm being very finicky, very kind of, I think because it was a week later, they did miss out on a lot of like kind of premieres and reveals and things. A lot of the trailers came out because they were scheduled for that time. And Annecy usually capitalizes on that, that point in the calendar, which is brilliant because they get to, premiere the Toy Story film. So they should really have had Toy Story 5, but obviously that was announced years before, so they obviously wouldn't get it. And, trailers were released and things like that. But that's me really, really like digging deep and having a look at what was actually on offer and stuff. But there was no shortage of, fantastic things going on at Annecy this year. The biggest thing, well, for me, was they launched the museum. There's the dedicated animation museum there, and this brand new kind of space. I don't know if you remember, I think it was 2012 or 2013. It must have been 2013. Maybe it was the year when the Bonlieu was closed, and they set up a cinema in the middle of what used to be a horse hospital or like a stables. Do you remember that big cinema that they set up? Yes,
I do. And I remember that being kind of miserable, like in terms of the heat.
Yes, yeah. Well, they've turned that into a beautiful kind of outdoor screening space and fountains, and you go inside the hall, there's another beautiful cinema downstairs, ice cold because it's deep underground, it's beautiful. Exhibitions, travelling exhibitions, so you had the Wildwood puppets there, the upcoming Leica film, which I saw a making of with Travis Knight, and that was really exciting to see what's coming up from Wildwood. It looks outstanding as a film. There's the clips that they screened, there's not an ounce of fat on them. They're just so, the beat in them is just absolutely fantastic. And Travis Knight as a kind of interviewee was absolutely just a wealth of information and inspiration and knowledge, and just brilliant. And a few people did complain about the host was Edith Bowman. You might remember Radio 1 and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Now she's obviously a big film, journalist and things, but her questions were very. They went nowhere near animation, considering she was at the world's biggest animation event. They went nowhere near animation. They were all like, "Oh, what do you do when you get a script?" And they were very basic. And people came up to me afterwards and said the same thing. They were very like, "Wow, they were a bit like very generic, basic questions, considering that you're at an event and in a room where you can ask any animation question, and the majority of the room will get it and really." Cherish the answer. But Travis's answers for such basic questions went into such depth and such kind of like, incredibly lavish detail. It was fantastic. And the clips that they screened really made for a wonderful event. And he got his hands. He got the kind of, they've made these kind of plaques of people's hands and put them on the wall. In Annecy, so Travis got his hands put up on the kind of the animators' wall of fame in Annecy, which is nice. So that was a highlight of Annecy, and there was loads of other bits and pieces on the go. I've written an article about Ricky Gervais's Alley Cats, which is coming up in August on Netflix. That had the audience in stitches. It was it went down extremely well for that, and I dare say I was chuckling away myself. I'm not the biggest Ricky Gervais fan. I really have to caveat that. I know his kind of treatment of anyone other than Ricky Gervais is questionable, but in terms of like what's been put together and what was put on screen, it worked really well. The only thing I can take away from it is that it is Ricky Gervais. It's his classic, bringing his mates together to swear for a set amount of time, and then at the end, give a life lesson about God not being real and the universe being amazing or something like that. That's his. That's what these episodes are.
Is the character he plays like a kind of grumpy underdog, but you root for him really because he's actually really fucking brilliant.
He's got a heart of gold. He just needs an opportunity to show it, Ben. He just needs a series to show it, and that's all it is.
There were parts of that fucking Afterlife show where I was screaming at the screen when like characters would be talking to his character about how amazing he was and how strong he was. What is this based on? Because it's not based on anything the character has done in the show. He's just been a knob for 6 episodes, and now you're sucking his cock. Like, what and I will say, you will never be able to take David Brent away from him, right?
No.
The things like The Office was not especially, to me, it wasn't that funny. It was just brilliantly observed. That consummate, needy, be my friend douchebag in a workplace or just an inappropriate environment.
Yeah.
And it's especially, I think, after the first year when they bring in the other guy who is the same, like, ranking, and he's just, like, riddled with jealousy because they all like him more, and he just becomes, like, such a schoolboy. Like, those people do keep rearing up in your life, time and time again.
There is definitely something in that David Brent character, which there's a kernel in there, which is why I liked Alley Cats, is that whilst David Brent is very clearly a dog personality type, as they say, always trying to please people and, aggressively trying to be everybody's friend, but is an utter imbecile in doing it. The cat, Gus in Alley Cats, is the complete opposite of that. However, they are a complete imbecile. Like, there's no, it's not like they're super intelligent and they'll flaunt their intelligence around. Like, is it Andy in Extras who was like huffing at everybody, as in like, or had always had to be the smartest person in the room. which is often the criticism for Ricky Gervais's characters. But for Alley Cats, we get a welcome break from that. We get and obviously his friends that he brings in from Hither and Yon and from the other series, they all do a fantastic job as well. Really support this thing. There was actually a teaser trailer that was released either today or yesterday, I think it was, and it was basically Ricky Gervais sending up himself as the Cats with all the cast of characters around him, basically saying what we've been criticising him for now. The fact that, and it was the Cats sitting around watching The Office, and then obviously the Ricky Gervais cat says, "Oh, he's a genius," and all that kind of stuff, and then the other characters go, "Oh, well, I like the guy in Afterlife," and "Oh, I liked him in Derek," so they're all going around basically saying what we're saying now, because they know it's coming. It's I think for Alley Cats, you're not gonna be sat there frustrated that the central character is the smartest person there. The central character in this has a heck of a lot of flaws, and isn't a super intelligent kind of fourth wall breaking kind of drags you out of the comedy kind of thing. Yeah, but yeah,
I'll say that what I've seen of the trailer and whatnot, it didn't make me angry. I didn't think it was dreadful. I'll probably give it its day in court. I feel like I'd probably enjoy it more than Fixed, if I'm honest.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
I will give it a whirl, but I don't trust Annecy audiences. I'm going to say this because there's a hysteria, I think, that descends upon them sometimes. I remember, watching How to Train Your Dragon, and people were bawling because Monsters U or one of the Kazes or one of the Ice Ages, and people were just like, I've never been so moved. All right, mate, calm down. It was funny. It had its moments. But probably the big sort of thing that I'll always remember is the rapturous applause and standing ovation and rolling in the aisles with laughter that an unfinished edit of Cans Without Labels got. And that, to me, is Annecy audiences aren't to be trusted. That's the worst thing that's ever been made in animation.
Yeah.
Promoted by the Skwigly podcast in our first year, before it actually became a thing. It's as bad as it comes. When you think of how bad can animation projects get, Cans Without Labels is basically the worst.
I suppose for the people on stage, there's only one crowd you can play that to, and you make the most of it, make a meal out of it. That's all well and good. There is one film that I saw at this year's festival at the closing night ceremony, and that was the latest or last, I should say, Richard Williams film, which has been completed. I am not a student of the classics, so I'm just going to quickly Google it and then pretend I'm clever. So you can either keep this in, Ben, where me struggling to find the name of the film.
Lifting the curtain.
Oh, you get lifting the curtain. Yeah, I really am an idiot. Yeah. What a surprise. And now I can't even, probably can't even pronounce, Lysistrata, the follow-up to Prologue. So Rich Williams was obviously passed away in 2019. However, his wife Mo Sutton presented Lysistrata, obviously based on the Greek, the ancient Greek story, and is the follow-up to Prologue, because obviously the idea was that Rich Williams would make a series of short films and then stitch them together to make the full film. Unfortunately, he started this when he was in his 80s, so he never got to finish it. And much to his own kind of, the film actually begins with this quote that he gave the Skwigly podcast back in 2013, I think it was, when he said, the working title of the film is "Will I Live to Finish It?" And that came up on the screen. But now he's dead, and you see that quote. It feels very you feel the sort of, oh God, like, like, oh, it's paying off and it's not nice. It's like, but the film itself, all drawn with pencil and just absolutely beautifully rendered. God, it moves. And like the cameras swiftly twirl around and the characters like blend and morph and bounce and jiggle and talk, and like every second of it is just exquisite. There's so much, like, we know that there's only a certain amount of frames that you can fit into 1 second of animation. But watching this, it feels like he's fit like 1 million frames of animation into each second, if you know what I mean. It's really lavish and it's really kind of, beautifully animated. The best bingo wing animation you'll ever see in your life, Ben. I'll give you that much. I'll tell you that much without ruining anything. It is maybe, if I can find criticism for it, I think the only criticism probably comes from the story, but the story wasn't written by Williams. It was written thousands of years ago. So there's not much can be done for that. So it's a little bawdy, shall we say. But what's brilliant about it, and what was brilliant about watching it at Annecy, was that Williams himself plays one of the characters, and plays this fantastic kind of like, almost like, panto dame, character in it. And, it was amazing to sort of have him back in the room for 6 minutes. And it felt like he was in the room for 6 minutes, seeing it on the big screen and just knowing that all eyes were locked on. And that was such a gift to have that for the time. And it ends, and when it does end, it ends at like a really sharp point. So I'm not going to give much away. I hope it gets screened at other festivals and, around the world, and people get the opportunity to see it and to, give their own thoughts on it as well, because obviously it's a film that's going to be scrutinized. But I was really happy to see it, and I was really happy to see it at Annecy. It was spectacular.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the Annecy audience are sometimes right, but I'm completely with you when it comes to certain films and them kind of getting really excited about certain things.
Was there a thing with Mike Judge this year at Annecy?
There was indeed, yeah. One of the many things I didn't really have time to catch myself, but yeah, I believe he was given an honorary Cristal. Which is, well earned, shall we say, yeah. He's part of the Common Side Effects team, isn't he? He's a major part of that. He's one of the voice casts. I think he might be a producer on that as well. And they gave a work in progress of season 2. And another thing I missed out on this year's Annecy, because there's just too much stuff going on. But I wish I would have gone to, because people were just really, people have described to me since about how amazing it looks. Have you seen season 1 of Common Side Effects?
Oh yeah.
Oh man,
I'm glad that that's coming back, because I felt like it's more my cup of tea than Scavenger's Reign was, just in terms of the type of story it's telling. But I thought Scavenger's Reign was incredible, but cut short, and. So I'm glad that someone is seeing a bit more, that there's a bit more to tell with this one, and they can, continue with it. Yeah.
It makes me think as well of the fact that, and this kind of goes on to like, I've been in trouble in the last month for trying to define things, but we'll talk about that later. But the idea of like, everyone always uses the term adult animation, and that obviously comes with connotations of people thinking about, other types of adult animation or exclusion things. But we have high-end TV. Why not just call it high-end animation?
Yeah.
Like, and I think Common Side Effects would absolutely fit in there. Because if you turn around to somebody and said, oh, it's an adult animated show, people might go, oh, right, okay, so it's, it comes with an expectation. But if you call it high-end animation, like, that sounds a bit more inviting, doesn't it? That sounds exactly what it is.
Prestige animation.
A prestige, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think Common Side Effects is the candidate for that. And yeah, lots to look forward to there. And yeah, speaking of looking forward as well, obviously Brad Bird was there in conversation with Sir Peter Lord on stage for the Next in Netflix, which was a brilliant conversation. There was no kind of like, it's hard to tell who was enjoying themselves more. But I'm pretty sure it was Peter Lord. But it was fantastic. And all the right questions were asked, and there was back and forth talking about art and stuff, and then talking about Brad Bird stuff and so on and so forth. But the first, I think it was 7 minutes of Ray Gunn was screened.
Oh yeah.
And that was amazing. That could have been a short film in and of itself. And there was some clips shown of the film as well. It looks amazing. Like he knows how to put together a film. If the rest of the film is anything to go by the clips that we saw, there's going to be no disappointment. It does look spectacular as a film. Which is great. But yeah, lots to get excited about. Went there as well.
Good to know he's still knocking them out.
He is, yeah. I don't know if you caught our wonderful Ryan Gore writing for Next on Netflix. Did you see his questions to Brad Bird and the reaction?
No.
No. Oh, well, cheeky scamp Ryan Gore asked Brad Bird about, what his decision to work with Lysistrata was all about again. And
good for him.
Yeah, and Brad Bird answered, and very matter of fact, in a kind of, well, it was just good luck, really. And so Ryan said, no, I mean about the allegations. And the answer was, you have to read it for yourself on paper, really, to make your own mind up, I would believe. But I think that's on Next on Netflix. So, I'm sorry if that annoys Netflix for pointing that particular one out, but I think that's a solid piece of journalism from Ryan, nonetheless. And I always have to shout him out. He does fantastic work.
Well, he's a very astute lad. He knows his stuff.
Yeah,
very happy to have him on board.
So great, a great Annecy all in all. It was so hot we had to cancel the Skwigly Rounders game because we didn't want people just collapsing in the heat. It was absolutely bonkers, the heat out there. But
luckily, an Annecy without controversy or incendiary events or remarks or occurrences.
Yeah, it just went without hitch, really. Yeah, just there was nothing else worth mentioning. I don't think. I'll just double check with Gemini or ChatGTP if there is anything else of any significance that happened. Oh Jesus, yes, yes, but no, Ben, no other things happened. It was an interesting one, wasn't it, for fans of AI or the opposite?
It's an interesting storm cloud we seem to have flown into because shortly before this, and this has been everywhere, but the furore was around Hisko Hulsing's new film Danse Macabre and its use of AI as part of its post-production pipeline, I think, essentially as a kind of renderer.
Yep.
But a film that by and large was, a handcrafted thing, had a lot of people employed to work on it. The fact that AI played a small role in it was enough to get a certain group to storm out and a few people to very vocally voice their displeasure. And it seemed as though the criticism was sort of at the level of as if he had had a film that was made entirely using Gen AI in the competition.
Yeah.
And the objective truth of the matter is that's simply not the case. This process that he used, I don't think it's completely non-problematic. I think it was probably unnecessary. And in my subjective opinion, I don't think it makes the film look very good. I think it's an ugly end result. I think it takes probably what was a lot of very impressive, handmade work and just kind of muddies it and gives it that sort of hallucinatory... This is the problem. It looks like Gen AI because you lose details or the details become inconsistent. Things run into one another or they get sort of carried along in a very non-real way, sort of dreamy way, but not the fun kind of dreamy. You know? So it looks like what it is, like an AI overlay. And I do think probably the inconvenient truth of it is that AI is going to start becoming, I think, more commonplace, more of a workplace commonplace thing.
Yeah.
But if we are...
Before we get going, Ben, and this is really important, we have to lay out our thoughts, our blunt, basic thoughts on AI, and we have to shout down billionaires, and we have to talk about the climate, and we have to do all that type of thing. Otherwise, anyone listening to anything nuanced, we will be in trouble.
Yeah. So I think AI is great. Because, I can make a film in a day. It's awesome.
You can make 6 films in a day with it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we're both very much aligned, and I think that there's probably an enormous overlap between the philosophy and ideological viewpoint of people who are very, very staunchly against all aspects of it and how we feel about it, because most of it at the moment sucks. It creates bad content, pretty much unwatchable, and when it is incorporated into content that would otherwise be quite good, it detracts from it.
Yes.
I've yet to see something, and we talked about this, to a degree in the last episode. I just don't really think it's ready for being trotted out. It's great for, the self-esteem of people who've never had a seat at the table, of being able to realize the things that they picture in their head, or, they might want to make a film or a cartoon or even just a drawing, and now they can tell a robot to do it for them. And, maybe that scratches some itch and makes them feel satisfied. But for anyone who has ever known the actual joy of being able to create something, the idea of doing that is so hollow and so pointless. Why would you bother?
Yeah.
And it's so boring to hear, but the thing that we have to kind of endure is, well, it's not going anywhere.
Oh my God. Yeah, the word embrace. I'm sick to death of hearing the word embrace. You have to embrace AI. Oh, we're all embracing AI. We're all embracing everything. What do you mean embracing AI? Embrace is such a, I can't remember embracing Blu-ray. I can't remember embracing, it just happened. I had to start using Blu-rays. It was nicer and, the quality was better and they stopped making DVDs. I didn't embrace it. I didn't, the idea of embracing it's such a loaded word. So the problem with that is you hear, that's clearly a phrase that's been, like what you've just mentioned there, Ben, that these kind of, the people flogging AI have seeded out there. And to hear people at events like this saying, well, you've got to embrace AI, it's not going anywhere, and all these kind of things that, these platitudes that I just feel that, yeah, we are, it's kind of like everyone's sleepwalking into it, aren't they? Just by not interrogating, what it actually is and what it's actually doing. Sorry, I got a bit much there, but yeah, I just
feisty.
Bit feisty, yeah. But it's I just hear the word embrace a lot when it comes to AI, and it's like, well, the least human thing as AI is to imagine an embrace, which is the most human thing.
No,
it's such a steal for them to use that language, and I'm sick of hearing it.
And at the other side, of course, it's the people who can't hear the word AI at all without completely melting down. And
yeah,
at some point we are going to need to calm the fuck down and grow up a bit. I think the thing that, interesting about the Hisko controversy is how on the heels it was of the Jorge Gutierrez similar furore with him, signing a deal to produce an AI show. Now, I think that would have been a terrible idea. Might not have been the worst idea if it was animated. I didn't, hate the concept. It seemed sort of goofy and whatever, and I generally like his stuff.
Yeah.
But it felt very bizarre Because you sort of got the impression he was reading the room in the sense of like, okay, now I know some of you are going to be a bit steamed, but, let's just see how this plays out. And maybe we can all, maybe this will be something that's like, yeah, no, that's, we're not ready yet. The world is not like going to have that discourse this year at the very least. And yeah, it was a bad time.
It was awful.
Yeah.
It was absolutely awful to see him, subject to it all. And I think he's very vocal on socials. He doesn't hide away like other directors that have been subject to kind of scrutiny from AI. And because of that, obviously he became a target. And receiving death threats was absolutely uncalled for. And what was worse than the death threats was people, well, I mean, nothing worse than a death threat. But what was obviously like added salt to that wound, I suppose, is when you hear people saying, yeah, he's received death threats. However, it's good he's been held accountable, or he's received death threats, but at least he's now not doing AI. Like, hang on, he's received a death threat. Like, can you not know how intolerable that should be? How you should be that should give you pause to say, this has gone a little bit too far. This has gone a little bit crazy. Let's simmer down a little bit here, because death threats are not on. If he got murdered, would you say, well, he got murdered, but at least he's not doing an AI film anymore? You wouldn't. And I'm not making light of that. I'm just saying that the fact that horrific crimes were committed in service of anti-AI. There are better ways to be anti-AI. I'm not saying that being anti-AI is not necessary and not needed. The opposite, it is needed. We need to scrutinize AI, but we don't need to do it in a criminal way.
Yeah.
He's a smart man, Jorge. He will listen, and he did listen. But he will not have listened to the death threats. That wouldn't have been the thing that would have turned him around. It would have been the idea of losing an audience, and, the idea that he listened to people and realized that, hang on, this isn't that I perhaps thought that I could retain control of this and be an artist using this equipment, and presented something which, made a case for, whatever his thoughts were. But yeah, death threats were just absolutely abhorrent. But seeing people saying "but" on the end of that, I just couldn't stand it. It's just awful.
Yeah.
And that's got me into trouble, that opinion.
Yeah, so you put together a piece on Skwigly, kind of like imploring people to see a bit of sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's a film that was shot at my school, my secondary school, called If. It's a quite fun old Malcolm McDowell film. And it ends with him doing a bit of he goes on like a school shooting thing from like the top of the chapel. And he's like picking people off as they're coming out of the chapel. And the headmaster goes up to the sort of quad lawn and he's screaming up, "I implore you, listen to reason and think." And that, I think, is something that we all set ourselves up for when we try and like quell an angry mob.
Yeah.
Mind you, I think due to our metrics, we've gotten off pretty light. And I think actually I've seen more people responding to it positively than, wishing ill. But maybe your DMs tell a different story. I don't know.
A bit of a different story, yeah. I did have, I would say, a prominent academic tell me to delete the article. And when I asked why, I was responded with 1,500 words of reason from them, which...
we should publish that as a rebuttal. We want to hear all sides. So what was the aspect of what you were saying that they took issue with?
I think that their main point was the fact they said something about me being purposefully misleading and irresponsible, and they said, this isn't it.
They're very hip with youthful vernacular, whoever this academic is.
Well, I did write back a similar amount of words.
From what you're saying, then, this is someone who perhaps has written a lot about it and has immersed themselves in it. I'm interested in hearing what they have to say about it. Because it sounds like an interesting exchange.
It is, yeah, and I'm sorry because I'm in podcast mode and I don't want to read 1,500 words out and then my 1,500 word response and then the nice ending which kind of tied it all up together. So sorry not to kind of go into too much. But yeah, just to show the kind of pushback.
It's a fair effort, though, to try and appeal to people's sense of reason. We'll see how that pans out. Certainly didn't seem like... I mean, I don't know. I get mixed reports from, what the reaction was at Annecy. It did seem that there was, obviously this initial flack to Hisko, but then a bit of sort of flack toward the people who were creating the flack. The whole thing seems a little bit mysterious in that it was clearly a group of people who all came with a same agenda to make a point of walking out when his film was about to play. And then a few people, as part of that group, were being very vocal in protesting it.
Yeah.
There's footage of one woman in particular being very vocal. And my first sort of takeaway, and it's kind of animation themed, is how much the woman who was shouting reminded me of that film Jolly Roger by Mark Baker.
Right.
Remember the shouty lady in that? She really reminded me of her.
There's a deep cut.
But if anyone's going to get it...
Absolutely. This is the podcast for it.
The dweebs who listen to this. We love you.
Never leave us, dweebs.
But, it's one of these... Well, what was your core... What's your group? What's your cause? No one seems to know where they, gathered ranks and planned this. And you would think that an anti-AI group at an animation festival would be more of a kind of known entity. I don't think it's a coincidence that many people walked out, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of keen to hear what their stance is, but, well, where are you? Where did you go? Who are you? And again, it'd be, interesting to get a bit of a back and forth on it. Marceau Jean put out a statement very much defending Hisko Hulsing in the film. I agree with quite a few of the points he makes, a few of them not so much. I do think that it is better than, just plonking a film that was made in, entirely in AI into a program like this. But you invite criticism, and I think that there are a lot of reasonable criticisms to level against that film.
It is right for people to be scared, and you can, the further you drill down into it, and there's a lot of whatabouteries and all that kind of stuff. The film is, as you pointed out, it does use AI in it. He can insist that it's oil painted, he can insist that it's animated, and he employed 80 people and all that kind of stuff. And that is true, and that is what's good about the film. The message that he tries to get across, etc., etc. But and people who can turn around and say, well, it's just a filter that he's used. It's just something that he's used to get it over the line. And it would have cost him an extra £2 million and another 50 years to make the film, or whatever you want to say about it. However, he still used it. And is it Stable Diffusion he used? I believe it was. It's still a really, really, it is still the machine that is stealing jobs. It is still the machine that is plagiarizing and ruining people and things like that. Using Stable Diffusion is still a moral choice. And you can't say, and this is me, this is me not defending Jorge as well by going in with Amazon as well. As much as I love him and love his work and everything, you still made that, you've still crossed that line. And you can you can see why the protesters are angry, because they see that part of it. And it's difficult to escape that part of it. Because, Stable Diffusion does nick jobs. It does ruin lives. It has been, ruining, the art world. It is a machine set out to extract wealth from the world, from creatives. And God knows we don't need that. So yeah, I can absolutely see where the protests are coming from. It'd be nice for them to vocalize it, though. You're absolutely right, Ben. It'd be nice for them to vocalize it in a that we are this group. We are. If it's 100 students from a university, let us know why. Tell us who you are and what your group is, and am I right in saying that's why? It was because of this use of Stable Diffusion. Were you aware that the entire film employed these people? Were you aware that the film was artistic at its core.
They didn't seem to be.
And that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
But then, I mean, again, if there was, a discussion, a back and forth and a debate about it, I'd find that interesting. And, it's a thing that I'm also trying to sort of, in a peripheral sense, I'm consulting on an event that's trying to do something similar, like put up a kind of debate. And time will tell on whether people could actually engage with it in an adult way. And it won't just prove to be completely incendiary and get people all worked up. There are some fascinating aspects of the discussion that people just aren't willing to entertain at this point. And again, like I say, this is coming from a position of I've yet to see any really good application of AI, where I actually, and I've seen people like present me with things going like, hey, look, this one's actually pretty good, isn't it? And I'm like, no, not yet.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not feeling it. But there are big studios using AI in their pipelines now. And they have rationalized it and are doing it as ethically as they feel they can get away with, Get away with, Ben, is very key in that. Yeah. Well, I don't think they put it right on their front page. Let's just say that. It's funny, there's, one guy who's actually really keen on talking about it, like, as much as possible. And he hasn't really upset the apple cart yet, but he's not really big. So that, I think, is sort of the difference. I think that's why a magazine like us, who have fairly sort of modest numbers in terms of it's very dedicated and very core, but we don't have that, like, extra, like, fringe element of, like, the crazies who will rampantly fill up our comment sections with just nonsense and wasting time. There are a couple. Yeah, we've encountered one or two in our day. But no, I think we can actually put out an article like yours, and the result is, well, you end up, having an academic debate about it. And that's actually a pretty good outcome.
A very good outcome, yeah.
There have been a few other kind of instances of things that have come across my radar recently. People who are kind of like trying to present AI in this way of like, but no, this is actually, this is the future of AI. I'm not a fan of like, the way people have been using Gen AI glibly and irresponsibly, but the way I'm doing it is good, right? And I'm seeing, like I said before, I'm seeing some more AI sneak into short films, and the difference between this year and last year is already like very clear. There was a film I saw that was like, it's kind of like watercolory, paint on glassy, but also kind of like malleable clay animation. Felt a bit Renaissance. I was like, oh, this is pretty, but something's not passing the sniff test. So I like popped it up to full res. I'm like, oh, well, there's AI interpolation going on here. It's a similar thing to Hisko's film. And you can just tell, and this wasn't even human forms or anything. This was abstract animation with AI over the top of it. And it's very clear,
Yeah.
One thing that came my way, it's a pilot, I think, called The Lost Garden. Have you heard of this?
No.
I'm going to pop you a link in the chat. See if, and my eyes are getting, blurrier as I get older. But see if, I'm not sure I would have, if I had just seen this on TV. I think it would have taken me a while to clock that it was AI. For a couple of reasons. One is it's not really the genre of film and the aesthetic of film I gravitate toward anyway. But the other sort of main one is like all of those really obvious tells of AI, to me, aren't very obvious in this. It's a bit like that Crow film we watched in the last episode, where you kind of have to sniff it out a bit more.
So this is Lost Garden, the Awakening of Lantern Night. So Count Binface is walking across a meadow. It's Count Binface.
Striding toward Clacton with victory on his mind.
Yeah, okay. I can see your...
So the sort of question to kind of come away with is, where does the AI come into it? And the person who made it talks about it in a very much in the kind of like, okay, I used AI in this, don't hit me. But also in a way of like, but this is an artistically made film. I made it, comes from the heart. I wrote it all. But looking at the website, like an enormous part of the production pipeline was AI. Like, so it's feeding in like, the script into like a storyboard generator that then creates, the character designs, that then creates, that basically makes the film shot by shot. And Midjourney is part of it. Midjourney being, one of the more contentious image-generating ones.
Yeah.
A complete chain run inside Screenweaver from a handwritten screenplay to a generated storyboard and then shot production, where AI serves execution without replacing intent, story, or direction. And one of the main issues I kind of take with it, I know about this because this chap sent it to us, I think, to talk about, in a podcast, and we're doing it. But he does that thing where he's calling this animation. And I think where we're at is, it's just not.
Yeah.
The AI part, he says, is mainly the animation and visual production part. Well, no, it's not.
I was just about to leap on that. Yeah.
Lost Garden shows how AI animation can now allow solo creators to produce real cinematic films and animated episodes today, not in 20 years. Again, AI animation is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like saying pasta animation or plug socket animation, except there actually have been animations made with pasta and plug sockets. I can't actually think of an equivalent nonsense pairing. But I understand it looks like a cartoon, right? Like it looks like a film that a lot of people would probably gravitate toward. Mm-hmm. I do not see these tools, another quote, I do not see these tools as a way to remove the human from creation. It didn't remove him from creating it. Like he was at the controls, right? Punching in the stuff.
Yeah. The human.
Yeah, a human.
Yeah.
I see them as an opportunity for independent creators to finally tell stories too large for their usual means.
The only reason I'm keeping an eye on this is because of Count Binface. There's no, and his ever changing size of helmet. I think you have to watch the film and know Count Binface for that sentence to land without any innuendo.
Yeah, the comments, and I don't think these are bots, all are very positive about it.
Yeah.
I don't think this is entirely the future. I think this is what a lot of people think is going to be the future, but there are more components, I think, to a film or a series. There are some people who can just make amazing things on their own, and maybe those people tend to be they tend to have the initiative to actually get stuff done and do stuff with people and get funding and actually be able to make a production.
Yeah.
Like this big film that people are really singing the praises of at the moment called Obsession. And that's a guy who has been making short horror films on YouTube, and they're a lot of fun. He just makes them with his mates, and then it got to a point where he got enough funding to make a feature film. And, it's clearly an indie film, but it's a film, and it's pretty good and creative. It does all of these things, those hallucinatory things that people use as a crutch when they do AI stuff, but he does it well because he's actually making it. It's handmade. It's using actual camera trickery and how he's staging things and lighting things and using the music and stuff. And the most messed up, crazy AI video where nightmare things happen from beginning to end does absolutely nothing for me by comparison, because you can just immediately tell. It's just it's like you're just watching a computer work stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's sort of where my hope kind of lies in the next generation. Is more people like Curry Barker, people who are actually not entirely one-man bands, but they have an idea and they see it through. And yeah, he probably could have made that film with AI. Maybe not now, but in a few years, and it might have found an audience, but yeah. And I don't think this guy has any interest in AI. But, this guy doing this quote-unquote animated show, this isn't a proof of concept or anything. I feel like he's going to make more just using AI.
This is the thing is people will and people can and people, will continue to be, but it's not animation. And I think that this is the major thing that people need to get their heads around, is the fact that just because it looks like it's animated does not mean it is animated. This is something that we've never encountered before, really. Puppetry to a certain extent, but never to this extent where something it can look like any type of animation. And unless you've got a microscope looking at it, you're not going to be able to tell. But you know, there will come a point, because of the rate that these things are going, where it will become indistinguishable. But it still won't be animated. And you know what I hope the article kind of continued that conversation of the fact that there needs to be a clearer distinction when it comes to these things, where that person doesn't feel emboldened to use the word animation, and that he should take some pride in that he's used a tool to create something solo, but it's not animated at the end of the day, you know. And I say he should take pride, you know, within his community, but not the animation community.
There's a great show that I don't think is especially well known, but it's Lisa Kudrow from like Friends, you know. She's been doing this show called The Comeback, and she does a season of it every 10 years. And so she's done 3 seasons over 20 years of this show, and she plays this. It's very much a kind of Alan Partridge mold of like lovable dimwit,
right?
Like always kind of putting their foot in it. And I think when it started, you know, in the mid 2000s, it was very much kind of like that sort of scathing look at like how cynical and gross reality television had become and exploitative. And then the sort of interim series was more about sort of more of a kind of prestige television sort of send up. And the most recent series is about this woman who is used to be a sort of famous sitcom star and has become sort of increasingly less famous as time wears on, but occasionally has these like comebacks in her career. And the most recent season is about her heading up a sitcom that's being entirely written with AI. And it's a funny show. It's really good. The old ones are really funny as well. It's like that same kind of like, you watch those and you sort of, oh yeah, I remember what the comedy was like in the 2000s. It was very mean. It gets less mean as it goes on, but it's quite interesting, I think, the way that they talk about how AI and, you know, the histrionics of people who are against it and the trouble she gets in for being associated with it. But she's also very funny in it, which is like, you know, I thought Friends was fine. She had her moments, but I this is a show where I think she's really, really funny.
Yeah. Yeah. You used to say about people getting frustrated with it. I know that somewhere within this podcast we will have said things that people, you know, really agree with and things that people don't agree with when it comes to AI. And there'll be things that we have said that people will completely ignore and decide to use against us or you know, I hope we have come across, you know, honestly, it is a problem. It is a massive issue. It is something that does need to be explored, definitely. And it needs to be explored rationally. I think if there's any point that we're making that hasn't, you know, that's not front and center, is that it needs to be explored rationally in order for us to progress, and in order for us to hopefully keep some ideas to what animation is, because we can't be saying AI animation. It's the long and short of it. We can't be selling animation short, and we can't be lifting up you know, imitations of animation to among the, you know, anything near what, you know, the love and skill that goes into animation. And even the worst animation, in anyone's opinion, has still been created with heart, with purpose, with soul. And I think, you know, with purpose definitely is the key there. Yeah. But Again, it's interesting. We talk about Annecy in the way that, you know, it has this kind of fury that was directed at the screen and directed at directors, and it became this kind of fight almost. It was like, you know, oh, did you hear what happened at break? Oh, yeah, one of the year 11s beat up one of the year 10s. You know, it felt like being back at school. Like, you know, it felt like that. You know, oh well, what happened? Where was it? You know. And it's interesting seeing something like Annecy where fandom comes into play really heavily. And then going somewhere like I did like yesterday at the Children's Media Conference and seeing AI used quite prolifically. Now, the Children's Media Conference is a really special place. It's a fantastic conference. It's full of wonderful people, and they do a great job in presenting and focusing on issues that are pertinent to children's media. And within that, animation is a massive part of this. However, they kind of drop the ball on a few elements when it comes to AI. Now, obviously, like any conference, AI just became the dominant discussion. Like any podcast, creative podcast, AI becomes the dominant discussion, which is good or bad. At least conversations going on, I suppose you could say. But what was interesting is you get this look, as you said, use the term behind the curtains, is you get this look at how industry is actually using AI. And as part of this, we saw pitches. So people were pitching their ideas to executives on stage for a session called Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is, which was, I must say, we're talking about AI here, but hosted by the brilliantly human Kenan who's, excellently hosted, hilariously hosted this fantastic stand-up ahead of these pitches. And these pitches were delivered by passionate, warm, not just because of the temperature, but, warm people who truly believed in their ideas. These weren't people who were shy or people who you would not believe could make an animated series and have just pressed a render button or just pressed a prompt button in order to get this stuff up. However, some of the pitches were very, very heavily AI. And the audience, if this was done at Annecy, the audience would have screamed the house down. The people would have walked out. They would have been shouting. They would have been bawling. There would have been death threats. Yeah, but here it was like, oh, well, this is just how it goes now. It's fine. So I kind of take issue with the people on stage, the executives on stage, when they said, there was a lot of AI being used. They acknowledged the fact that AI was being used, but then they also said, we get a lot of these now. We get a lot of people acknowledging AI. And that's a real shame, because it would be very simple for a massive broadcaster or a massive company to turn around and say, we will not accept pitch material if it is AI. If one of them says it, the rest of them will say it. And what that automatically does is that means that the people with the work have to hire illustrators. They have to find people to create the work. So those broadcasters who are scared of spending money, they don't have to spend a penny. It's the people who want to put the pitch together that have to spend the money. So all they have to say is one thing, and it will help industry out, no end. If people know that they can't just create this AI stuff and stick it in front of executives as a kind of, this is what it could look like, if they go out and spend, however much it costs to get these illustrators together. And I spoke to some people who had actual work from actual illustrators, and they said what they usually do is they would, they'd hire four artists. They'd give them a day each to come up with, to pitch the work, and they would pay them for that day. And then the one that they liked the most, they would hire them for a few grand to create the entire Bible. So they've had to find the money to do that. Yet they could have used AI, because these broadcasters are not saying we're not going to accept anything with AI. So please, if you're a broadcaster listening, all you have to do is say that, and people will start getting paid. And the ideas you get will have been through a creative process unlike AI. That's my just kicking off again and knocking everything off the table, but that's just my
flown into a rage.
Thrown into a rage again. I'm throwing my arms around. I found it very uncomfortable to see these perfectly capable, brilliant people pitching these shows which had something really going for them, but having to rely on AI and everything looking the same on screen. Whereas you could have hired an artist, or you should have hired an artist, I should say, as opposed to you could have hired an artist.
Was that sort of feeling shared by other people there?
Yes. Yeah, to a couple of people that I did speak to, it wasn't the most disappointing. There was actually a verbal outcry at the end at an AI event during Children's Media Conference. And like I said, Children's Media Conference, I am just talking about the negatives here, but I can't overstate what a positive experience it is and what a brilliant conference it is. And, you know, it is a must for anyone attending, and it's wonderful to catch up with so many brilliant people. But the Animation Assemble is their kind of flagship animation session that they put on. Obviously, the Children's Media Conference have to cover all media for children, but they put on dedicated animations part, which used to be my highlight for Children's Media Conference, but after this year, it was pretty much a letdown. You know, there's so much that could be to be discussed in terms of the animation landscape this year. You know, there's been so many changes, there's been so many kind of ups and downs, but it was dedicated to AI and to discussing AI platforms, and it came across as it was as evangelists, you know, talking about how wonderful it was, and that. No fault to the host. You know, the host was fantastic. You know, I've got a lot of time for him. And you know, there was some other people on the panel as well that were absolutely fantastic. But one of the things I was really, really disappointed to see was Particle 6 were there peddling Tilly Norwood. On this animation panel. Are you aware of Tilly Norwood, Ben?
No, I don't know.
Right. So Tilly Norwood is proclaimed as the world's first AI actress. So she's completely AI, and she's going to star in a brand new film. It's called In the Tillyverse or something like that. And she has got actors' unions up in arms because she's an actress. She's going to go on screen. She's not going to get paid. She's not going to have any kind of say, but she will work effectively for free and be the star of billboards and all that kind of stuff as well. And I will say now, she is not the world's first AI actress. She is the world's most tiresome PR exercise. Like, I am sick to death of hearing and seeing Tilly Norwood everywhere. I'm
just looking at like the Google Images page of pictures of her face, and I'm already sick of her.
yeah. But they put up like a little. It came up on my feed because my algorithm knows how I'm angry about it, so it pops it up going, your blood pressure seems to have lowered. So do you fancy getting a bit mad here? So yeah, it's and it was like Tilly trying to sneak into Taylor Swift's wedding or some fucking thing like that. And it looked just like every other AI slop video. There was nothing special about it. There was nothing unique about it. There was nothing brilliant about it. And Tilly, you know, didn't look like any of the other pictures of Tilly. And she changed from scene to scene, as did the other characters within the screen. But what's annoying is obviously Tilly has got like all equity members up in arms because, you know, she's stealing work from actors. So like she's really like annoying the live action world. Particle 6 are really annoying the live action world. So why were they on an animation panel?
Yeah, and why there? Are these for like kids, the stuff that she's doing, or?
No, young adult kind of. Maybe it's actually can't count that as kids. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, it just if you look at any of this stuff, none of it is aiming towards. You no idea where it's aiming towards because all she is press releases. All she is an insistence that the world is going to change and we're going to get these digital actors and Particle 6 are the first people to do it. But yeah, to discuss this 100% AI pipeline and the fact that they've managed to save 90% of the film's budget because it's all AI. Like, why do this? Why put that out there? You know, well, you did have, you know, other people on the panel while they were discussing AI. It was Hamid, who we've had at Manchester Animation Festival before, at the Animation Nation Forum, you know, had a genuine point of discussion, you know, really talking about, you know, how Africa has been left behind in this kind of AI boom. You know, I'd rather everybody be left behind in the AI boom, to be fair. However, what Hamid's doing is it's good work in ensuring that, if it is going this way, then people aren't left behind, so to speak. So there is, it's a valiant effort and to be applauded. But yet again, I mean, I will repeat myself. I wish everybody didn't have data centers and didn't have all this kind of stuff crammed down the throat. But yeah, so this is just to get to the point here, is the session was it was ended quite unceremoniously. They asked for a couple of questions from the audience, and, there were a couple of kind of, it almost seemed almost sycophantic questions from people saying, "Oh, great session, guys. Oh, well, I want to talk more about AI." But then right at the very end, when they were wrapping up proceedings, one audience member stood up and insisted that the panel answered questions. Actually, I will say the name just because it was a friend I made at the festival, at the event rather. It was Isabel Faye, who's a screenwriter, who stood up when they tried to close the thing and said, "Given the environmental costs of these tools, how can you justify to yourselves making entertainment for children that worsens the climate crisis that they will inherit?" That is a valid question. Like that is an interjection. That is exactly how, those are the exact questions that need to be asked and need to be answered.
Well, it's what they should be leading with.
Exactly.
It's amazing that they hadn't already cooked up some kind of thing to kind of preface their presentation or whatever, to kind of, stem the tide of questions like that. The fact that only one person brought it up is quite surprising to me, but good that someone did.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, Ron, the host, was great, but he was throwing a lot of softballs to these people. They were given some real, easy questions to walk around and promote themselves and things like that. There was nothing to get in the way, in the kind of way of promotion, but, so fair play to Isabel for kind of putting that out there. And I'll say, fair play to the other person. Fair play to that audience member for, asking the real questions.
What was their response?
They shut it down. And they said, "We have to finish now and clear the auditorium."
That sucks. I'm annoyed about that.
Yeah.
That was irresponsible.
Yeah. I've ruined your evening. I'm so sorry. Should we talk about something that puts you in a comfort zone, Ben? Should we move away from AI?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just very, very strange. And when there's something this strange, you wonder, who do you call? Could that be the worst segue in the history of the podcast? Very possibly.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm here for it.
Something a bit more fun and carefree, and hopefully actually produced by human beings at Annecy, that was presented. Something that's been kind of shrouded in a little bit of mystery for a little while, but I think people have been we've been getting little comments from our various sort of Netflix slate press releases about the supposed development of a new Ghostbusters animated series. But yeah, very, very small slivers of information. Like 1 year it would be a logo.
Yeah.
And then, the next year it would be a slightly different logo and, a couple of things about who might be attached to it. So I guess people have indeed been beavering away at it, and it will come out probably sometime next year. But they previewed it, or they did some sort of presentation to that effect at Danse, yes?
They did, yeah. They gave a fantastic presentation. It got the audience a buzz, really. I dare say it was really exciting. And some of the sequences that they played in the auditorium were built for an auditorium. It's this kind of large scale, cinematic quality work that was really exciting to see. And as Ghostbusters fans, it just. Yeah, it was fabulous. It was absolutely wonderful. So this is Ghostbusters Night Shift, which is heading our way soon. And it's set in 1994. These are the big reveals that the presentation gave. So it's set in the exact year that you and me, Ben, would have been running around the garden with our plastic proton packs on and running around squirting water out the end at one another. Although I think I told a different story in this podcast about that at a birthday party where all the kids could afford proton packs and I just had a fairy liquid bottle.
Yeah, you put your craft skills to use.
Yeah. I got my mate Jonathan's mum to give me a fairy liquid bottle. But set in 1994, and a ragtag bunch of kids get together in the old Ghostbusters firehouse and learn to bust ghosts. Is the quickest way of putting it together.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds, not to be, I'm not saying this is a negative, but just as a observation, it sounds quite similar in premise to an attempt to make a show in the sort of mid to late 90s, where its stock probably as a franchise would have been at an all-time low. And that was a show called Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And it was about a group of not like kids, but like university-age young folk kind of taking the mantle. I remember kind of catching bits of it every now and again. Then I think eventually I did sort of circle back and tried to watch a few of them. I was like, okay, I can see. It's very much the Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie show of, I think, the Ghostbusters universe, right? Like, it's sort of, just the fact that it's called Extreme Ghostbusters, like, Extreme is in the title. It's not your grandmother's Ghostbusters. It's 1996, and we're extreme. We've got, like, asymmetrical haircuts, man.
Yeah.
We wear our dungarees, but not both straps.
Yeah, there does seem a bit of that with the characters as well. It's
But they've also been doing that with the movies in a way, like the new movies. And because I knew we were going to talk about this, I rewatched the most recent one, which I had seen once. I actually did go to see it in the cinema, and it's okay. Like it's the one they did before was better, like bringing it back after a very long time, but making it about
the Frozen Empire.
That's the newest one.
Yeah.
We were talking about it as we were watching it. Simultaneously quite overstuffed, and yet a lot of quite important story stuff is really skimmed over. So it feels a little uneven as a film, but like, it is what it is. It's kind of Ghostbusters-y background noise, and there's a couple of good gags in it, and there's ghosts in it. Well, what do you want? Occasionally they get busted. But the one they did before, where they kind of established like the grandchildren of Egon and like how they're kind of the one, that also felt a bit like a sort of reset of like, we are definitely steering this world toward kids or toward teenagers, and probably very Stranger Things informed in that respect. I do think having the Stranger Things guy in the films was a bit on the nose.
Yes.
And also, like, he's completely redundant. Him and the girl he likes, they're in both of the newer films, and there's no reason they should be in them.
Yeah.
They give them nothing to do, except he can drive the car because he's a bit older. Well, if they'd just done one grandkid and made her old enough to drive the car, that would have probably solved it and made it a more efficient movie. I have notes, but the guy I went to see it with, and he won't mind me saying it was Matt Walker, who we both know, and people in animation will know, but he really likes Ghostbusters. Like, it's a big part of his childhood, and it was ours as well, but for him it was, significantly more of a thing. And, or did he have notes coming out of seeing that film? And, I would feel that way about, when I went to see The Many Saints of Newark, which was the Sopranos movie, and that was very hard to watch for me because I just kept... It's your own show. How are you getting all this stuff wrong? It's the same guy making the movie. Did you just forget what happened in the show? So that was his Many Saints of Newark, was Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think we may have talked about this before, but like, I kind of expected, but I was really hoping it wouldn't happen. But going into it, like, okay, well, Harold Ramis died. Are they going to bring in like a CG Harold Ramis ghost? If that happens, I'm going to be really, really bummed out.
Yeah.
And then, the film I don't care. I'm going to spoil the film. So the film happens, and there's Egon's ghost is in it, but you don't see a ghost, right? You just see things moving around, and some of it's actually good sort of comedy business with him kind of communicating to his granddaughter from beyond the veil. Mm. Then in the last act, sure enough, CGI Egon ghost appears, and I'm like, like it completely got me. I was so geared up for it to be like, just bum me out and bug me, but it really it manipulated me in exactly the way it was meant to.
When his hand goes on hers.
And then you kind of get to see all four of the Ghostbusters again. At that point, you don't actually need to keep making more movies, right? Like that's sort of the button they put on the end of it. But I appreciate the effort. Other people have done far worse things with beloved franchises. There are far more bad Hellraisers than there are good Hellraisers. So, and I'm sure Star Wars fans would say the same thing. And oh my God, what they did to the X-Files. Fucking you. So, I think a cartoon, an animated series, rather, I think that's probably a good domain for this concept.
Yeah.
It worked so well in the 80s when we were kids watching the cartoon. Like, it just sort of made such sense as, like, something that little kids would find compelling. Yeah. And actually to then, go back, you got a little older, like, as I was saying to Gareth, actually, when I did his podcast and we were talking about the old cartoon, that the old cartoon is like my first memories of anything. Certainly anything watching on TV. Maybe that and Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
I remember what was captivating about it. It was like it was presenting something that could be quite scary, but in a way that was very accessible and very kid-friendly, but the characters had personalities that were very clearly defined. They had good messages in them. It was kind of a wholesome thing. I do think it's unwatchable now, but in the same way all 80s animation really is, it's a struggle to get through. So it's nice. I like the idea of them taking another stab at a show for a new generation. I think that could be fun. Oh, I'll tell you something. At one point in Gareth's podcast, I'm talking about various bits of Ghostbusters tat that I had as a kid, and some of it I still have, right? So he took it out of the podcast, but he put it up as a separate video. And initially the video was titled Ben Mitchell and His Ghostbusters Toy Collection. And I actually sent him a message like, can you change that title to something a bit more like, Ben Mitchell and Ghostbusters merch or something? But I mean, yes, it was my Ghostbusters toy collection. Now it's a bunch of shit in my attic. I don't actually... But one thing I really do genuinely think is pretty cool is I do have a production cell from the show. I like production cells. I like animation bits of history. Yeah. You've got, I think, some behind you right now. It's a fairly...
certainly have.
I showed this to Gareth, and this clip is on YouTube, but I showed it to Gareth, and internet, do your thing. Find what episode this is from. They made like 400 episodes of that show. Of course, you're never going to find it. Someone actually emailed me and said, I think it's from this episode. So I had a little look, and I was able to find the episode on YouTube, and it took me a while, but I did scrub through it, and I found the frame and the episode.
Wow!
I'm not entirely sure where I go from there, but now I at least know. I think it only
amazing
was able to happen because it happened to be in probably one of the more popular episodes. Like, there are some that involve certain villains, recurring villains, that are, more, I guess, remembered. So you could actually, look, it's just a frame of Winston just kind of bending over as though he's picking something up. And in the context of the show, he's, comforting a small child. But the actual animation is kind of shit. It kind of looks like he's sort of, pushing the kid on the shoulder and just walking away. It's a bit like that Lord of the Rings clip. The Bakshi Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf just kind of, fucks with Frodo or Bilbo or whoever. Then he does that thing with his hands,
Yeah.
So it's kind of a moment like that. But there you go, mystery solved. And if anyone ever sees it and be like, oh, which episode's that from? I was like, I could tell you.
It's good that you know it's real, because God knows there's enough kind of fake animation cells doing the rounds. And I tell you, we go around Disney World when I went years ago, and they had the staff members just sat there drawing like the worst Mickeys and Donalds and Goofies, and just putting them up for sale in the windows to ape that kind of animation cell thing. So what you've got in being able to see it, being able to view it, it's pretty special. Pretty special.
It's one of the things where it would be very easy to fake, but there must be thousands of these things out there, given that they were all analog produced. They wouldn't have all been wiped clean. So that's that. So I think, is it the same people essentially who are doing the newer movies kind of behind this show to an extent, I assume, at least producing or exec producing or whatnot?
Yeah, it's as they call themselves, it's Ghost Corp, Jason Reitman and people that are behind that. So it comes from the core of it. This isn't something that's been shipped out or sold on or anything else. It's the core team of Ghostbusters, the people that are kind of in charge of the franchise, shall we say? So yeah. And
Jason, son of Ivan Reitman, who of course directed the 80s Ghostbusters films, sort of took the mantle there.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's probably why sort of family is such a big theme in the newer films. I think that probably is sort of bled into it a bit. And Ivan Reitman, I think, was still alive, actually, when he did Afterlife. I think they actually...
Yeah, it became a co-directing gig. He mentions it in the interview as well. My question, I think it might have been a little bit cheeky, but we'll see how you think he reacts, Ben. But yeah, it's certainly, it was a kind of a joint effort, and he gives a beautiful answer, regards to that collaboration with his dad. The show itself looks, it's something to be excited about. It's got some kind of genuine, it's a genuine sort of Ghostbusters feel to it. It's as they said at Annecy, they said they did the corporate thing. They did this kind of where they say, Ghostbusters, it has heart, it has humour, and it has, all the excitement of adventure together. They did the boardroom. And then when the directors got up and said, when you're laughing, you'll be laughing, but then you'll be shitting your pants. So that's what the first Ghostbusters films were. Yeah. And I think a lot of people kind of forget that, they remember, or we remember as men in our 40s now, Ghostbusters as kids and the real Ghostbusters and watching the film if you're brave enough and all that kind of stuff. But they're adult films. This is, it's a Saturday Night Live spin-off with very, very kind of like, risque jokes and real elements of horror throughout. And yet it's kind of, it's nice to see that applied to this new series, particularly there were some good jump scares in the clips that they showed, in Central Station, where the kind of this group of about 6 kids gets together and they have to fight a demon or a ghost, an apparition, I should say, of a ticket collector from the old-fashioned trains. So it's big scale stuff, and it's exciting, it's loud. But yeah, it's like I say, so 6 kids get together, they get into the firehouse. There's a pet. I don't think there's a Slimer involved, or Slimer is involved, but there is a devil dog, but a puppy version.
Oh, fun! So
you've got that, which I think having you live with one effectively, but I think you'll see a lot in this particular character. So that drew the awes from the audience, which was nice. It's very kind of scrappy and handmade world. It's very kind of the kids find the what's left of the Ghostbusters headquarters and make it their own. The kind of add things together, put skateboard wheels on stuff, and it's very kind of 94. Ecto 1 becomes Ecto 94, a van, full of the Ghostbusters gear. yeah, it's really exciting. You know, it's good stuff. There's a lot to be excited for.
Does it have those little the little marshmallow creatures in it? Because that
not that I saw. No,
I did not care for them. It was sort of like Gremlins, Minions, but not quite
Minions.
either. I did, yeah. But that's another. They come back in the second of the new films. But for no reason, they're just there, and it's like, stop trying to make these a thing. Like,
that's exactly it, isn't it? It was like, oh well, Minions, they're doing well. Yeah,
I like the idea of the puppy.
Yeah, that you know, that there was a kind of, if you can trust the Annecy audience, you know, there was some love in the room for that particular puppy. But yeah, it you know, it does look great. It does, you know, it looks like heaps of fun. You know, lots to be excited for, and really that kind of that Ghostbusters feel. But there will be a lot of mystery solved as well, because this takes place in 1994, where the firehouse is dilapidated, and obviously, you die-hard Ghostbusters fans know the timeline of Ghostbusters. 1991 was when the video game from 2009 was set, and that's canon, Ben.
I've said that constantly.
Yeah. So
I will take your word for it.
What happened between then and it's rather coyly answered in our interview, but there's an allusion. It's alluded to rather that there is some kind of relevance to Ghostbusters. Ray's books are there in the background art, which wasn't mentioned but was there on screen.
So was there much of an indication of, like, are the old ones in there, like the old characters? Because in that other show that was set and made in the 90s, they weren't, except for Egon, who was kind of like the splinter, I guess, of that group, you know. He was sort of the mentor.
If they are in it, they're keeping their powder dry. They're not kind of announcing it, but like I said, there's it's alluded to. And this isn't me being coy and saying, you know, I don't think I was given enough to say that there will be an animated version of Bill Murray turning up. Or, you know, it's not, there wasn't enough information on that, but I think you can more or less kind of, guarantee that type of thing is going to happen in some way, shape or form, I would say, because they have to solve the mystery of the firehouse, why it's abandoned, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it is canon. So between the old films and the new films, this is what happens officially. So, you know, it's got to tie together.
Yeah, I guess that's important for some folks. I'm usually quite content for a series universe to be its own thing.
Yeah.
Maybe because of that. 10 years ago, when someone tried to make another Ghostbusters film that wasn't set in that universe, that canon universe, and yes, he was nearly killed. And those poor ladies. That film was fine. There was nothing wrong with it.
I'm completely with you. Absolutely fine. And not no harm was done, but God did it set them off.
So you got to tread cautiously around canon.
Yeah.
Cool. Shall we hear from the team behind Ghostbusters Night Shift?
Let's hear from the team.
Amie?
Should we start introducing?
Amie Karp, executive producer on the show.
Ben Hibon, showrunner.
Gil Kenan, executive producer.
Jason Reitman, executive producer.
Elliott Kalan, writing showrunner.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for talking to Skwigly today. The talk yesterday was fantastic, full of exciting reveals. Plenty for Ghostbusters fans, old and there will be new as well, obviously, with this big reveal. But it took me right the way back. It was great hearing about you growing up with your Ghostbusters, Jason, and playing with exactly the same toys that I played with, and I'm sure others played with as well. Many which have been passed on to my children now. They're still in my mum and dad's house, and they're still passed down. Which
How
terrifying.
Sticky and smelly are they at this point?
My son's doing a good job at making them sticky and smelly.
All right.
I coveted them somewhat, but yeah. See, your father produced an incredible variety of films throughout his career. Growing up, did you get any inkling as to whether or not Ghostbusters was particularly special to him, and his thoughts on expanding the world?
I mean, Ghostbusters was iconic from day one. It just captured people's imagination, not only the film, but the music, the logo, everything about it. I remember that Halloween everyone was a Ghostbuster. I was just the only one who had an actual proton pack. And I think my father, frankly, was skeptical about expanding the universe at first. He was really proud of the animated series. I think he had a really fun time directing the sequel. But I remember even as I was talking to him about Ghostbusters Afterlife, he was excited that we had a Ghostbusters story to tell, but he certainly wasn't of the kind of Marvel mind of expanded universes and dimensions and hundreds of characters. But making Afterlife with him was one of the great experiences of my life, and I think his life.
Fantastic. So it's 1994 in the series, and we get to fill in the gaps, which is really exciting to see this world expanded. We've got a brand new crew as well that we all get to meet. That was brilliant, meeting them all individually. But can we talk through the origins of the story? Why 94? Why a brand new crew? What?
The origins actually began way back while Jason and I were writing the last two films. So while writing Afterlife and Frozen Empire, we began a conversation about the time that has happened since 1989 and what mysteries still lay along that timeline. And of course, we started our story contemporaneously in 2021 with the Spangler family and their saga. But we knew that there was a question to answer in the 1990s. And it was through conversations with Amie Karp, who we work with at Ghost Corps, that we began to identify this as an opportunity to expand that story, to start to look into that mystery through a longer form piece of storytelling. And that animation became the perfect way to tell that story because we knew we had a large supernatural canvas. And we wanted to create a lot of new spirits and take the audience in places they haven't gone before. Animation felt like it was the only way to tell that story.
The canvas is as big as your imagination. Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And obviously Ghost Corps had this incredible legacy of keeping Ghostbusters lore together. And the last kind of, I think it was Canon, the video game from 2009, that was set in 1991. A lot's happened in 3 years, according to the Ghostbusters Night Shift. Will we discover? Is it a continuation of that story? Is it? We're all looking at each other. I don't know whether or not I should have asked that question.
Well, you go ahead.
No, I mean, look. First of all, this story is a mystery, and we're gonna keep it a mystery for people to discover when they watch the show. But what we'll say is that it is 100% in canon, and like every great Ghostbusters movie thus far, it is 100% in tone with Ghostbusters as far as comedy and scares, but is also going to completely surprise the audience. And the real challenge for us was finding two new storytellers who could really pick up the torch and run with it. And Amie found Elliott to write the show and Ben to create the artistry of the show and design a world that fit within canon but told a whole new story.
I was delighted to hear such a succinct. You'll laugh yourself silly, but you'll also shit your pants. I think was said on stage, which I'm sure isn't the board-friendly recommended tagline, but it fits perfectly. It's wonderful. But I'd like to talk about that world that's being constructed because it's this kind of technopunk extension of what we've previously seen of New York, and New York is very much a character, as it always has been in the Ghostbusters lore. But icons like the Proton Pack and Ecto-1 are replaced with kind of era and storyline fitting alternatives. You have Ecto-94, the van. So, the series, although it's expanding the lore, it's maintained some of the vital elements that make such a beloved franchise. Can you talk us through the decisions as to sort of how far you feel that these things can be pushed and what's in mind when these things happen?
One of the things that's so interesting that you said, bold family recommended tagline. We were not interested in family recommended tagline. In fact, the tagline we use is perfect. So how far can we go? We wanted to go as scary as possible as we could in animation for adults. And if kids are brave enough to watch this show, great.
And it feels like as long as we are capturing the special tone of Ghostbusters, that special combination where the ghosts are genuinely scary, the jokes are genuinely funny, and they play off each other in that way, then we were free to push the other elements in ways that we could hopefully put new spins on. And so the hope when people are watching the show, whether they're adults or very brave children, or children whose adults don't know that they're watching this show, is
also brave children.
Who are also brave in their own way, yeah. That the hope is that it will resonate with the same things that the movies resonate inside with us, but in ways that are still surprising, So you're getting what you want out of Ghostbusters, but in a way that is not that you didn't necessarily know you wanted it this way because it didn't exist this way yet. But now that it is, you're like, well, this is Ghostbusters. Yeah.
It's fantastic that Ghostbusters manages to reach those the kids who watched the original animated series, back in the day, myself included. And then as you grow up and you watch the original Ghostbusters, and it's a very adult film.
Yeah.
It's not the idea that animation is for kids is often put out there, but this seems to be like some of the sequences we saw yesterday with the ticket collector was absolutely amazing on that big screen. Fantastic. So you really pushed the ghost element and the fantasy in this as well. Can we discuss a little bit about that?
And I think we're really trying to make it grounded. It's really, really important because for the horror to work and for the more human story at the core, that we are recognizing this world and this reality as being ours, and we don't stretch and pull in ways that it feels too artificial or too exaggerated, and then we lose a sense of reality. So it's not a realistic show, but it has a sense of realism and naturalistic kind of lighting and camera work that just kind of grounds it in a way that.
But as we sign
the stakes.
Yeah, but as we sign your imagery, you're pushing the language of how to create a supernatural menace on the screen.
Yeah.
And that ticker taker ghost is really just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there is a supernatural cast of characters that you're going to discover not just in each episode but across this series that is really going to stretch out the definition that we have come to expect in a Ghostbusters story.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for talking
Thank
to
you.
Skwigly.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, yeah.
We're all looking forward to Ghostbusters Night Shift when it's released.
More to come.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you
so much.
So thank you to Jason Reitman, Gil Kenan, Ben Hibon, Elliott Kalan, and Amie Karp for discussing things Ghostbusters Night Shift with Steve there at Annecy. We'll learn more about that in the coming months, I'm sure. Probably likely to be released sometime in 2027. But a little tease for you.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of Annecy magic for the people who had FOMO and missed out.
Yeah, you didn't have to put up with the heat.
It's kind of cool to have Jason Reitman on the podcast, because outside of being the sort of heir apparent of the Ghostbusters throne, he's directed some pretty good stuff. And one of my actual, legitimate favorite movies of his is Young Adult.
Yeah.
That film and Dark Horse by Todd Salones, and they were both about very, very damaged middle-aged people, or people sort of coming up to middle age who had never quite grown up. And they were both a very, very big influence on when I was writing that book, Throat, my graphic novel. I just found those kind of character studies really compelling. Also, Ghostbusters trivia that probably any Ghostbusters fan knows anyway, but he was in the second Ghostbusters film as the really shitty kid who's making fun of them at the birthday party.
Right.
And his sister, the daughter of the director, she was she was being experimented on by Egon, and he's like, let's see what happens when we take away the puppy. So he's the little girl in that scene. But she grew up to become the crazy cat lady in Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Wow.
She's hysterical. She's really funny.
Fantastic.
And she's been in other things, of course, but that's probably the crown of her acting career.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
She likes to be comfy and current.
Fantastic.
So, a talented family.
Very talented indeed, yes. Yeah.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of the AI Skwigly podcast. I mean, we've done so many of these. There are so many thousands of hours of audio of our voices. We could just get AI to make the podcast from now on. Just give them a couple of season 5 Simpsons episode discussion prompts, and it'll do all the work for us.
Yeah. Free us up to, I don't know.
Whatever it is we do, I don't even know at this point.
I don't know, yeah. Something else.
I think we brought up some interesting discussion points. Don't get mad at them.
Yeah.
But if you have things, if you have thoughts, get in touch. We're eager for discourse on this subject. because it's a lofty one for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from people if they've lasted this far, and they've got stuff to say. Then send us an email. You better find how to contact us on the website skwigly.com. So get in touch. Before we dash, if you're a filmmaker and you've got films you want to submit, you've got until the 31st of July to submit any short film, student film, commission film or immersive film to Manchester Animation Festival. So yeah, until the 31st of July. But yeah, it's not just short filmmakers. If you'd like to nominate yourself or a colleague for an Industry Excellence Award for script writing, storyboarding, character design or character animation, the deadline is the same, 31st of July 2026. So yeah, it's free to enter the Industry Excellence Awards. So why not?
Right. Well, of course, for all of the news, reviews, interviews and whatnot that we're so known for, check out skwigly.com. Of course, we're still on Instagram at Skwigly Animation. We also have social media presences on Facebook, X, I think still, Blue Sky. Give us a follow, read the articles, be enlightened, enrich your life. We love to see it. Until next time, everyone, happy animating.
Bye-bye.